She called the police on me with tears in her eyes and stolen earrings in her pocket. I lost my job, my reputation, everything. But while everyone else believed her sweet smile, I started watching and recording, because if no one else would expose her, I would. I opened the door with shampoo still in my hair. I remember that part vividly. The water still dripping down my neck, my hand clutching a towel, and my brain struggling to catch up with the uniform in front of me. "Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions," the officer said. Behind him, across the lawn, Danielle was crying, or pretending to. Her hands were shaking, and she kept dabbing at her cheeks like a woman who wanted to be seen. Her voice carried just enough, loud enough for the neighbors to hear, but not loud enough for me to understand. A rehearsed kind of hysteria. I didn't know what was happening. I offered them a confused smile, instinctively stepping back, like if I gave them space in my hallway, they'd realize the mistake and apologize. "I think you've got the wrong apartment. We have a report of stolen property, a family heirloom, jewelry. Your neighbor reported that she saw you with it." I laughed, actually laughed, a short, startled breath that didn't belong to a guilty person, just a bewildered one. Danielle's voice chimed in from the sidewalk. "The sapphire ring. It's from my grandmother. I saw it on her hand 2 nights ago. She said it was a gift." "Who says that about stolen jewelry?" The officer's face stayed unreadable. "Mom, do you mind if we step inside? It's hard to explain what it feels like to be both confused and humiliated at the same time. To be half wet, half dressed, and suddenly a suspect in your own home." I let them in. I don't know why. Maybe I thought it would make me look innocent. Maybe I still believed people like Danielle couldn't win. They searched my apartment, every drawer, every cabinet. They found nothing, of course, but that didn't stop the whispers that followed, the questions, the way the officer took notes anyway, how he looked around my living room like he'd already made a decision. That night, my manager called. "We're putting you on temporary leave until this gets cleared up." And just like that, a decade of work wiped away with one lie and a fake cry. Danielle wasn't always like this. At least, I didn't think she was. She used to borrow eggs, watch my dog when I was traveling. We even watched The Bachelor together once, curled up on my couch with cheap wine and popcorn. But that night, she'd cried to the police. She'd worn the same scarf I gave her last Christmas, the one I hand-knitted, blue and gray. She had the nerve to wear it while destroying my life, and that's when something broke in me. Not rage, not yet, just awareness that this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a setup, and I was already losing. It started with my mailbox. 3 envelopes had been left hanging halfway out, like someone had started to take them and change their mind. They were utility bills, nothing special, nothing worth stealing. But something about it made me pause. I remember standing there longer than I should have, staring at them like they might spell something out. Then came the packages, small things, a book I'd ordered, a new phone case, all marked, delivered, none ever found. I blamed the building's mail system. I blamed porch pirates. But deep down, I didn't believe any of that, because Danielle had started smiling again. Not the neighborly smile she used to have, the one you give while watering your plants or dragging out your trash bins. No, this one was smug, quiet, like she knew something I didn't. I stopped making excuses the night I found the scratch. It was shallow, right above the rear tire of my car. A long, deliberate line. Not a bump, not a door ding, a message. That same morning, I caught Danielle taking photos of my parking spot. She didn't flinch when I saw her, just shrugged and said, "Your insurance might want to see this." I stood there with my keys in my hand and said nothing. Because what do you say to someone like that? What do you say when everyone else still believes she's a victim? At work, people had stopped looking me in the eye. HR said I could check in once the investigation ended. My friends sent texts that read, more like condolences. "I'm sure it'll all work out. Let us know if you need anything." Nobody said they believed me. That's when I started keeping a notebook. At first, it was just dates and weird coincidences. Tuesday, package missing. Thursday, Danielle smiling. Friday, scratch on the car. But the list grew. I started seeing patterns. She was always outside when I left for work, always had an excuse to stop me, ask about the weather, compliment my outfit, tell me about her awful ex as if we were still close. She wanted me off balance. That much I knew. Then, one night, I found it. A necklace, cheap, plastic and broken right under my welcome mat. It was blue, just like the earrings she'd claimed were stolen. I picked it up with 2 fingers. No box, no bag, just there. My stomach turned, not from fear, but recognition. She was planting things, baiting me, or building a case, or both. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't just trying to ruin me, she wanted me to react, she wanted me to slip. But I wouldn't. I'd let her keep going, let her think I was breaking, because if she wanted to make this a game, then I'd stop playing fair. I didn't sleep the night I found the necklace. I lay in bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, listening for sounds that didn't belong, every creak, every pipe, every gust of wind that rattled the windows. But it wasn't the noises that kept me up, it was her. Danielle. Smiling. Planting. Framing. The idea formed around 3 a.m., half buried under adrenaline and spite. By sunrise, I was at a hardware store paying in cash for a motion-activated camera and a screwdriver kit I didn't quite know how to use. The porch light was the perfect spot, slightly tilted right above my door. Most people never even look at it. It took me 2 hours and one sliced knuckle to install it. But when I stepped back and saw the faint red glow, I smiled for the first time in weeks. Now, I'd be watching too. At first, nothing happened. I checked the footage every night, scrolling through mundane clips of people walking dogs, kids riding scooters, an old man with a cane who always paused to look up at the sky. But then, 3 nights in, I saw her. 2001 3 a.m. Danielle, wearing a hoodie, her hair tied back, barefoot on my porch like she belonged there. She didn't knock, didn't steal, didn't even look at the doorbell camera. She just stood there for 7 minutes, fiddling with something in her hand, glancing around. At one point, she leaned down, adjusted the edge of my doormat, then walked off. I stared at the screen for hours, watching her over and over again like it was a horror movie. Rewinding, zooming, looking for clues. There was no reason to be there, no explanation, but there she was. And that was enough. I bought 2 more cameras the next day, one for the hallway inside, one hidden behind a plant on the back patio. I became obsessed, documenting everything. Every time I saw her, every time a neighbor mentioned a missing package, every whisper she gave someone across the street, every glance she threw when she thought I wasn't looking, she was unraveling me. Slowly, quietly, I started setting traps. I left my front door slightly ajar one evening just to see if she'd push it open. She didn't. I left a box on my welcome mat marked "Return to Sender." It disappeared the next morning. The camera showed her taking it, pretending to text as she slipped it under her arm. I labeled the footage. I added timestamps. I kept a backup on a USB stick I wore around my neck like a charm against the devil. But it wasn't enough. Not yet, because this wasn't about catching her red-handed. It was about making her admit it, and the only way to do that was to let her feel safe. Let her think she'd won. I started baking again. Cookies, banana bread, even tried my hand at a lemon loaf, the kind Danielle used to rave about. I boxed them neatly, walked across the lawn with a fake shy smile, and handed them over like a peace offering. "You've been through so much, I said softly, eyes wide, palms up. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything." She looked surprised, then pleased. It was the first time I'd seen her walls crack. That's the thing about manipulators. They feed on perception. Give them a story where they've already won and they'll keep writing their own downfall. By the next week, we were friends again. She invited me in for tea, showed off her herb garden, told me about her ex-boyfriend who was obsessed with her and how the cops never took her seriously until she cried. I took mental notes. I noticed how often she used the word victim, but never in reference to anyone but herself. Then came the pawn shop. I followed her once, nothing dramatic, just hung back 2 cars at a stoplight, sunglasses and a borrowed hoodie. She parked near a strip mall and walked into a store with bars on the windows and flashing neon in the front. I took a photo of her walking out, another of the receipt she left on her dashboard just visible through the glass. The next day, I visited the shop. "I'm looking for a vintage sapphire ring," I said to the man behind the counter. He showed me 3. One matched. The description she gave the police: filigree silver, chipped on one side. I didn't buy it. I didn't have to. I just needed the clerk to confirm the seller. "Danielle," he said without hesitation. "Pretty lady, talk my ear off about her awful neighbor." I smiled. "Yeah, she does that." I went back to our block armed with more than I'd hoped for. It wasn't just me. 2 other neighbors had experienced theft. Minor stuff, missing mail, wallets gone from unlocked cars, but they'd shrugged it off. When I asked if Danielle had been around during those times, their faces changed. Realization setting in like coffee, finally kicking in after a bad night's sleep. One of them, Marcy, even whispered, "I always thought she was a little too perfect, you know." I did know. Perfect people never are. Back at home, I watched Danielle on my cameras. She'd started dancing on her porch again, watering plants she didn't care about, talking loudly on the phone, always just in earshot. She's finally cracked, she giggled to someone one night. You should have seen her face when I told the cops. Priceless. I replayed it 10 times, zoomed in on her mouth. Priceless. So I leaned into it, played the part, the weepy neighbor, the guilty one. I started wearing oversized sweatshirts, letting my hair go unwashed, standing outside at odd hours just staring. Danielle loved it. She brought over wine, left sticky notes on my door. Thinking of you. Stay. Strong. You're not alone. Each one felt like a slap disguised as a hug, but I collected them all, pinned them to my wall, beside the pawn ticket, beside the screen captures, beside the receipts, a timeline of gaslight and performance, because soon she'd give me the finale. The one I could share with everyone, and this time she'd walk herself straight into the frame. She knocked with a bottle of rosé in one hand and that trademark smirk in the other. I let her in, smiled like I meant it, tucked my hair behind my ear the way she always used to say, makes you look harmless. And then I guided her to the couch, the one I'd angled just slightly so the tiny black lens above the bookshelf could see everything. You've really bounced back, she said, popping the cork and pouring too generously. I was starting to worry. I'm still figuring things out, I murmured, keeping my voice small, but I realized I might have been wrong about the whole thing. Her eyes lit up like a kid at Christmas. I offered a weak chuckle, stirring the tea in my cup. Like, maybe I did borrow the ring and forgot to ask, or thought you'd said yes? It's all kind of blurry. Danielle leaned forward, tilting her head with concern that couldn't have been more fake if she'd rehearsed it in a mirror. It's okay. Memory gets weird when you're overwhelmed. Exactly, I nodded. Overwhelmed. I guess I just never expected to be the kind of person who'd lose track of something so important to someone else. She sipped her wine, biting back a grin. You know, I've always thought you were too nice. It's easy to take advantage of people like that. My fingers tightened around the mug, but I didn't flinch. I just smiled and asked, do you ever feel guilty? She tilted her head again, coy. About what? You know, about people misunderstanding things, like you try to help, but it spirals, and suddenly you're the reason someone's life falls apart. She laughed, really laughed. You're not still upset about HR, are you? I lost my job, Danielle, and I lost a ring. We're both victims, right? I let the silence stretch. Let her think she was steering the conversation. Then I said quietly, it just feels like you've always gotten away with things. That's when she did it. The head tilt, the lip twitch, the lean-in whisper dripping with smugness. You want to know a secret? I nodded. I used to think you were one of those girls who'd never get it. Too soft, too trusting, but maybe you're smarter than I thought. I didn't move, didn't speak, just waited. And she filled the silence. You weren't supposed to fight back, you know. Most people just fold. They cry, they apologize, they leave. Another sip of wine. But not you. You got clever, got nosy. It was cute. Why me? I asked. She blinked. What? Why frame me? She shrugged. Because you were close. You trusted me. And honestly, I was bored. Her voice dropped a note lower. You have no idea how easy you made it. I nodded slowly. Thank you, I said. For what? For telling me. Then I reached behind a pillow, pulled out a small remote, and pressed play. The TV blinked on. Danielle's voice filled the room, her exact words from 5 seconds ago, already on loop. You have no idea how easy you made it. She froze, turned toward the bookshelf camera, watched herself blink back at her. And for the first time since this all began, she didn't smile. She didn't say anything at all. Because she finally understood I hadn't been breaking. I'd been baiting. I didn't sleep that night, not out of fear this time, but because I couldn't stop watching the footage. Over and over, I watched her say it. You have no idea how easy you made it. The gleam in her eyes, the calculation, the smug tilt of her voice. I watched it so many times I could recite the rhythm of her laugh like a metronome. By morning, I trimmed the video to a perfect 36 seconds, just enough to set a fire, not enough for her to see where it would burn next. I uploaded it anonymously. Neighborhood watch forum, local Facebook group. I didn't even caption it, just the video, just her voice. Let her words do the cutting. By noon, it had over 400 views. By evening, I was getting messages from people who hadn't spoken to me in weeks. Wait, is this real? Is this Danielle? And then quietly, subtly, her mask began to crack. I saw her through the peephole first, pacing on her porch, phone in hand, jaw clenched, hair disheveled in a way she never allowed in public. She knew. I waited. Then came the knock, soft at first, then harder. I didn't answer. The messages started again. Danielle, can we talk? Danielle, I think we had a misunderstanding. Danielle, I don't know what you think you're doing. I let them pile up. My inbox was a graveyard of her failed performances. The next day, I sent the footage to my old boss. No commentary, no explanation, just the video. 10 minutes later, I got a reply. One sentence, "I'm so sorry." That made me cry, not out of relief, not even vindication, just the absurdity that it took a damn video for anyone to believe me. Then the police knocked, but this time, it wasn't for me. A detective, not the same one from before, asked to speak to me about a pattern of fraudulent reporting in the neighborhood. Apparently, the video had made its way to someone who'd had a similar run in with Danielle, and someone else, and someone else. There were statements. Now, reports being reopened, claims she'd made that never quite added up. It wasn't just me she'd played, it was half the block. They didn't arrest her that night. Justice doesn't work like that. But they questioned her, and for the first time, the cracks weren't just visible, they were loud. She screamed at the officer, called him sexist, accused me of hacking her home, claimed the footage was AI generated, deepfake, but people weren't buying it anymore. One neighbor, Marcy, walked up to her mid-tantrum and said, "You lied about my car getting broken into too, didn't you?" Danielle's face went sheet white. "The last time I saw her was through my camera. She was packing her car. Suitcases, trash bags, a cat carrier that never stopped wailing. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked small, smaller than she'd ever let herself appear. I didn't wave, didn't gloat. Just watched. Because there's something about real consequences that makes revenge feel unnecessary. She was already running. And this time, the cameras weren't mine. They were everywhere. I got my job back, technically. HR sent an email titled Reinstatement Opportunity, as if they were offering me a favor, as if they hadn't folded the second things got complicated. When I walked into the office that Monday, no one clapped, no one hugged me. They just looked away, like maybe if they didn't see me, I wouldn't remember how quickly they'd vanished. I didn't expect an apology. But I thought anyone might say, "Hey, we were wrong." No one did. My landlord called a week later, said he'd reviewed everything and decided not to pursue eviction after all. He spoke slowly, like I should be grateful, like being falsely accused had made me a liability. He ended the call with, "Hope there's no hard feelings." There were, not loud, not sharp, just buried, dense, the kind of feelings that don't scream. They sit, heavy, permanent. My mother sent a card, not a phone call, not a visit, a card. It had a flower on the front and said, "Thinking of you," in gold script. Inside, she'd written, "So glad things worked out. Hope you're feeling better now. Love, Mom." No mention of the tearful voicemail she left when Danielle first made the accusation. No acknowledgement of how fast she believed I was a thief. Just a flower and a hope. I didn't write back. I kept the card though, somewhere between petty and proof. That's the thing about clearing your name. It doesn't scrub the stain. People look at you the same way you'd look at a broken cup, someone glued back together, functional maybe, but never quite. Right again. I still catch the side eyes. I still feel the space people leave between me and them in elevators. I still get the vibe. And the worst part, I still wonder if I'd believe me too. Danielle's house sat empty for weeks. Then a young couple moved in, bright smiles, matching bikes, big plans. I watched them from my kitchen window as they painted their mailbox together, laughing, safe. I wanted to warn them, but I didn't. I installed a new camera instead, this one with better resolution, night vision, audio, not because I expect another Danielle, but because I now know the truth. It only takes one person to destroy everything, and no one will protect you once they believe the lie. You have to be your own witness, your own defense, your own damn proof.